Marco Rubio, otro video que me llegó esta mañana. Un video que me dio súper alegría porque también veo a un Marco Rubio, este sí es con Mallorca, a un Marco Rubio mucho más agresivo, mucho más protector de los intereses de sus votantes. Y esto fue contra Mallorca, hablando específicamente de el asilo político que reciben algunas nacionalidades como la comunidad cubana y luego violentan las leyes del asilo político regresando al país de origen. Escuchen aquí cómo Marco Rubio hace hablar a Mallorca.
For a visa, that's denied. You're inadmissible, right?
I believe that's the correct language.
So what if you already have a visa, and then while in the U.S. with that visa, you espouse or support terrorist activity? Shouldn't that be an automatic cancellation of that visa?
Senator, I would have to check the law, but I would understand that it might be a basis for the revocation of the visa and the removal of the individual. I'd want to check the law in that area.
Well, I think it makes sense that if you can't get a visa because you espouse terrorist views or endorse terrorist views, if you have a visa and then you do that while a visitor, we're talking about visitors to the United States, that visa should be canceled.
I would agree.
Okay, good, because I'm asking the administration to enforce that, and I hope you will. I think that's important. You know, and there's a lot of talk about immigration. I deal with immigration every day because, as you know, where I live in Miami, virtually everyone's from somewhere else, whether it's another state or primarily another country in South Florida. So everywhere I go, I'm just going to be real about what people tell me. This is what they tell me. I talked to a lady 3 days ago. She says her son, I forgot the exact, he may be in Honduras. She's going to Venmo him $5,000, $6,000 or Cash App. He's going to pay someone to bring him to the U.S. border where he will present himself to border officials. He will be admitted into the country at some point, released. He knows this because other people have done it. Depending on how he's released, within 180 days, I believe, he'll have a work permit. And at some point in the future, he'll have to show up for a hearing, maybe not get an immediate trial date, but he's basically within the next 8 weeks is going to be living in the United States. This is the pattern that they have established and that they understand. And once he's successful at doing that, he'll obviously tell people back home how he did it, and they'll do the same thing. Is that not, in essence, what is happening?
I would perhaps, Senator, qualify a few of the facts, but that is indeed a pattern that we see, which speaks to how broken our immigration system is.
I want to talk, and Secretary Becerra, maybe this will involve you a little bit too, about a specific category, this refugee resettlement, Cubans, Haitians. But let me just focus on the Cuban one because I know that one well. So if you come from Cuba, you are presumed to be fleeing political persecution. So you automatically are eligible for refugee cash. You're eligible for food stamps. You're eligible for Medicare, Medicaid. Others who immigrate to this country have to wait 5 years for those and don't get the refugee cash. But within a year, depending if you're paroled, you can apply for a green card. And then you can travel back to Cuba as often as you want. Multiple times. You can take cash. You can buy stuff with the food stamps. I've seen it. Okay, this is not, I didn't read this in a magazine. I've seen it. They use the food stamps, they fill up these bags, and they take it back to Cuba over there. Or they just transfer cash back. Some people go back to Cuba for 3 months at a time. They've been here a year. How, if you are fleeing persecution, how can it be that a year later you are spending summers in Cuba? How can it be that less than a year later you're traveling back 6, 8 times a year to Cuba? I've never heard of people fleeing persecution going back to a place repeatedly. There's an issue here, is there not?
Senator, you respectfully allow me to say that you've misdescribed the Cuban Adjustment Act and what happens when an individual from Cuba arrives in the United States, because we do indeed remove individuals to Cuba. So,
assuming Cuba will accept them and they're ineligible for some reason, right?
That is correct.
But the overwhelming majority do not get removed.
That is.
Which is fine. I'm just saying, if once you, I'm not talking about the people that are here. Once you are here, you're assumed here because you're a refugee fleeing persecution, and you have a host of benefits at a minimum. If a year later you're here on a refugee, but you're going back to Cuba 6 times, shouldn't you at least lose the refugee status?
Senator, let me follow up with your concern. The question being, if I understand it correctly, is if indeed an individual flees the country of origin by reason of fear of persecution, they obtain refugee status, because
Specifically
that-
Cuban in this case.
Because, yes, because that fear has been affirmed, and they are now a refugee. Does their desire and actually travel to the country of origin militate against the legitimacy of their claim?
Actually, it's a year later.
Senator Baldwin.
I will follow up.
Me gusta Marco así. Me gusta ese Marco Rubio así que pone a este señor a titubear. Ah, bueno, déjeme hacerle el seguimiento a la ley, déjeme seguir buscando información, porque según lo que tengo entendido, coño, pero si usted es el secretario, usted tiene que estar allí con toda la información, usted tiene que saberlo todo. Cuando yo veo a esta gente que no conocen ni las leyes a las que tienen que apelar y aplicar, entonces usted se da cuenta por qué es que la frontera está como está, por eso es que los comunistas están entrando, los terroristas están entrando, porque esta gente no sabe ni siquiera las leyes que pueden aplicar o no les interesa conocerlas. Entonces, viendo esto, me vienen a la mente aquellas personas que me dicen, Otaola, pero ¿cómo tú vas a ser alcalde si tú no conoces cómo funciona? Bueno, yo creo que yo conozco cómo funciona Miami-Dade mejor que Mallorca, conoce cómo funciona todo lo que está bajo su mando. Viendo la respuesta y viendo el desastre que hay y viendo el no me importa de la administración Biden, evidentemente yo voy a hacer mucho más por Miami-Dade que lo que está haciendo la Levin.